Hello and welcome to the channel. So today is our second faction focus, and today it's Kislev, the Bear Lords themselves. The guys who, it's like a dwarf and an elf lady had it off and then popped out something that was significantly taller than a dwarf, bearded, has hybrid units, and lots of range options as well, and then some animals. Yeah, it's a really weird image. As the same with the Nurgle gun, it's a general overview. There won't be any in-depth stuff. I'll probably save that for separate videos where I can actually spend time rambling on about it without feeling bad and like I've wasted too much of your time. So, let's just crack straight on, shall we? So let's take a look at the legendary lords that you can start off as. The first one is the Tsarina Katerin, which is, you know, the angry looking Elsa lady that they've been showing off so much. Now, the campaign effects, well, faction effects that you get are devotion generated, 10 from successful Frost Maiden hero actions, a control bonus of +6, hero recruit rank of +3 for Frost Maidens, and Ice Court training duration is -2 turns. The Lord effects are corruption of -6 in the local province, an upkeep of -50% for Ice Guard units in the Lord's army, and a miscast base chance of -50%. I'll cover her magic as well as the other Lord's magic in a little while in a separate section, because obviously we have 3 to look at. So the next one is Kostaltin. You know, totally not Rasputin. He is of the Great Orthodoxy, and his faction effects is diplomatic relations of -40 with the faction of the Ice Court. Devotion generated, 10 from successful Patriarch hero actions. Award save of 20% for embedded Patriarchs. Melee attack +5 for Kossars, Kossovite dervishes, and horse archer units. And also a +5 boost to the same units in leadership. His Lord effect is wound recovery time of -2, and he has the passive ability of Frenzy. Now, the last one who you will not have right off the bat, and probably my most favourite of the Kislev Lords, and the first one that I will definitely be doing a full campaign on, Boris Ursus, the Red Tsar himself. His faction effects are diplomatic relations +30 with the faction of the Ice Court, the construction cost of -50% for garrison and religion buildings, construction time -1 for province capitals and settlement buildings, recruit rank +2 for War Bear Riders units. Lord effects is -50% upkeep for War Bear Riders units in his army, leadership +7 when fighting against Chaos, Demons of Chaos, Norska in his army, and a melee attack of +9 against the exact same enemies. Now, Boris is slightly different in the fact that you'll actually have to play at least part of a Kislev campaign to get him. You have to pick either Katrina or Katrine, you know, I'm always going to call her Katrina, I'm sorry, or Rasputin, I'm always going to call him that, as your starting lord, and basically you have to hold Prague, Kislev, and Erengrad for 10 turns. Once you've held these for 10 turns, it will trigger a quest battle which will allow you the ability to unlock and free Boris, and you can jump right out the campaign and jump into a Boris one if you so wish. So, let's move on to the next bit. So, Katerin's stats and skills. She is a caster lord, so, you know, she's not going to be the best at melee combat, although she does hold her own for a little while, more so when you stick her on a bear mount. She's going to be a bit more survivable then. She has decent melee attack and also has frostbite, which gives a penalty of -30% speed to the enemy. She starts with 2 spells from the Law of Ice. The first one is Ice Maiden's Kiss, and the second one is Ice Sheet, which you can see what they both do. The only real noticeable passive ability that she's got that's a bit different is By Our Blood, where she becomes unbreakable whenever her leadership is wavering or lower. Everything else is pretty much standard, and she has a resistance for missile damage of up to 15%. So now the skills. Blue tree is pretty much straightforward, standard blue tree, as is the same with the red tree. The bit that becomes interesting is her actual magics. They are quite powerful. The Law of Ice is relatively damn good. You have things like Frost Blades, you also have Death Frost. These are really strong early on spells. And then you go into the big things like the Heart of Winter, which actually has 4 different phases and is really damn good at just devastating units that have like a high group number. So, let's say for example you're fighting the Skaven. If you were to use this on the Skaven, you'll absolutely shred them to pieces. She gets the option of having 2 mounts. You can either have a Warhorse available at rank 8 or a War Bear available at rank 14. And she also has, the regular boosting kind of abilities in the top tree here. So she's a pretty damn strong legendary lord. I'm not sure if she's the strongest out of the 3 Kislevian lords. Is Kislevian the word? I don't know. But let's have a look at the next lord. So the next lord, Kostaltin, he's very much a supportive lord rather than an offensive one like Katrine, and you can kind of see that in his stats. He's slightly higher in melee attack, but not by much. He has fire damage instead of ice, like Katrine had, and the attacks are magical. He has the activatable, I hate that word, ability of Ursun's Roar, which gives a charge bonus of plus 36% and a leadership bonus of plus 8. His passive abilities are generally the same as what Katrine has, except for Ursun's Ward, which heals 0.4% per second for whenever his hit points are below 25%, and he also has the Courage of Sacrifice, which gives all units within 35 meters of him a leadership bonus of plus 12 and a melee defense bonus of plus 5. This is when his hit points are again below 25%. He has the same missile resistance of 15% as Katrine does, and his skill tree is relatively similar. The red and blue lines are identical to what she has, and the only real difference that you'll start seeing is where he has Ursun's Roar and this line that goes along with it, which is the songs of the old Kislevian gods. These are more supportive than anything that Katrine has. We have a spell which regenerates health, we have one that gives a melee attack bonus, and one that reduces the enemy's vigor. The rest of his abilities, generally speaking, are about buffing up his units rather than himself or, having magic, with the exception to Arcane Vassal, which gives him the bound spell of Fireball. And that's pretty much it for him. He can have 2 mounts, just like Katrine did, and they're the same thing, Warhorse, War Bear. He's a good and interesting take compared to Katrine, because they are pretty much the polar opposites, no pun intended. But let's move on to the last and the biggest boy of them all. So, the Red Tsar, Boris Ursus. He is a melee-focused lord, and whilst his melee attack is actually lower than what Kostaltin's is, don't ask me why, his weapon strength kinda makes up for it, given the fact he gets a bonus versus large of 25, he gets base weapon damage 130, and armor-piercing weapon damage of 300, which is a pretty nice amount. He has the activatable ability of Fury of Ursun, I can't believe I said that right first time, base weapon damage plus 25%, armor piercing weapon damage plus 25%, can cause terror, and he goes into a rampage. Passive abilities are pretty much the same as Katrine, and he even has the same missile resistance. The skill tree is entirely melee focused, there isn't a single spell in here. Red and blue lines, again, same as all other lords that we've seen so far, are exactly what you would expect from the Total War Warhammer series, and the rest of it is literally about buffing bears and one bit about buffing Sarguards. The rest of it is giving elemental bears regeneration after unlocking all 4 of these, which is pretty damn nice, and also giving some buffs to your campaign, giving growth, as well as giving construction time a bit of a buff as well. that's pretty much it, except for the fact that he also gets the rather awesome Erskine at level 11, which increases his armor, his speed, his weapon strength, and his charge bonus, as you would imagine, riding in on a giant feckin' polar bear. Anyway, let's skip on to the next little section. So, the first big mechanic of Kislev. This is known as the Motherland. It has two subsections, the first being invocations, which is basically you praying to one of the four Kislev gods. Salyak is the first one that you see, which gives supporters generated of 1 when gaining a character rank, growth plus 20, casualty replenishment rate 8% for all armies, and has a duration of 10 turns. It costs 63 devotion, as the same with all of them, and the next one that we have is the devotion towards Urson. This gives you 5 supporters when occupying a settlement. It causes attrition to enemy armies within your territory. It sounds very much like the Tomb Kings did. An army ability of the Bitterness of Winter for all armies, and again, this lasts for 10 turns. Then we have the invocation for Daz, not the washing powder. Apparently it's a Kislev god. I didn't know that. Which you gain 1 supporter when constructing a building. You get income from trade increase of plus 15%. You also get income from all buildings increased by 8%, and again lasting 10 turns. The last one we have is Tor, not to be confused with the hammer, because this is an axe, quite clearly. You know, it's not Thor, is it? Is it? I mean, Thor on a bear would be cool. I'm rambling. This gives you 2 supporters generated when fighting a battle. You get the army ability of Wrath of the Bear for all armies, and you get a melee attack of plus 5% for all armies. And again, standard duration time of 10 turns. The second is supporters. Now, as you go along the campaign, your faction will gain supporters, lose supporters, depending on, you know, if you manage to beat up chaos in your territory or enemy armies in your territory. Essentially just showing the Kislev people that you should be boss. Now, if your opponent reaches certain levels in this tree down here, you can then use supporter actions to rob them of supporters and actually give yourself a bit of a head start against them. This will go on up until the end of the tree. Basically, you gain diplomatic relations with Kislev factions. You also get control in all provinces, leadership bonus in all provinces, and speed bonus in all provinces. It increases as it goes up the tiers until it hits the final tier, which is Loyalist Supremacy, and, well, you can just go ahead and confederate your opponent and just say bye-bye to having political warfare, which is quite nice. That could be a very useful way of gaining your opponent and leaving it just for the right moment. I could see confederating them early could cause you an issue if you manage to get this early enough. But I'd say that pretty much covers what the Motherland is. So another new mechanic that is with Kislev, although it's all new because it's Kislev, is Atamans. Now these are governors that essentially will give some nice little bonuses to your regions or provinces when they're completed. You have a choice of 4 Atamans. This number won't increase. It's a base amount of 4 at any one time, but each Ataman can be put into 2 provinces at once. So technically you'll be able to actually give a boost to 8 provinces in total. They all give different bonuses at different points, so you can either be increasing income, control, growth, or corruption reduction. Now, if you don't happen to like one of the Atmans, I have been told that you can recruit them as a lord later on, and they might be able to have a rather unfortunate accident in a battle, and you'd get a new one spawned into your list that could be more favorable to what you wanted. So, you know, we might be arranging some people to go off into the woods and never return. But other than that, it's a nice little mechanic which isn't too complicated. It's relatively easy and you get access to it very fast as soon as you have your first province. In fact, you can install an Ataman and start getting a little bit of a bonus, which you are going to need with Chaos chucking everything it can at you. And that's pretty much it for this one. The next mechanic for Kislev, known as the Ice Court. This gives you the ability to recruit and mold Frost Maiden heroes, as well as Ice Witch Lords, which actually you can pick either the Law of Ice or the Law of Tempest. You get that option straight away. You have to pay a set amount at the beginning of 4 turns. What happens during these 4 turns is that you will get a series of questions pop up at the beginning of each turn, allowing you to pick a different benefit that that lord or hero will gain. You can see a couple on the screen at the moment, which shows the Frost Maiden hero. I can choose between making them perform better with hero action success chance, or being better in battle. Now, I'll chuck this one in battle, so I'll go along with that. And with the Ice Witch Lords, we can be infantry focused, or we can be cavalry focused. Now, these are not set. You don't always get the same options. It is completely randomized. You will find completely different combinations coming up, and I don't think I could even cover all of the possible combinations that there actually are. But let's see if I can show you the next phase. I apologize for my load time, but I wanted to try to show this as a live thing. But it all doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Okay, yes, stop speaking. I want to show the people this. So here we go. And then, as you can see, we get to pick another one, which gives either war sleds an upkeep reduction or artillery, which is always nice. Magical warrior or builder. So you can see that through doing that, you can actually mold your lords to at least be somewhat closer to what you would like from them. It might not be perfect, but it's going to be better than just having to constantly refresh the list like we used to do in Warhammer 2, which I think is quite a nice little touch. Now, let's move on to another big bit of Kislev. So a little bit on the magic. I mentioned earlier on that there is a new skill type of magic, lore type, that's the word, called Tempest. Now, as Katrine, you get access to a Frost Maiden of Tempest literally straight away, which is really nice because it means you have both laws of magic at your command instantly. Now, Tempest seems as effective as ice magic, and it does the same things roughly. You have some offensive spells. You also have some spells for buffing your units up, which is pretty nice. You have spells like Biting Wind, which does relatively decent damage. Swift Wing gives a nice charge bonus, which, given the fact that there's a lot of cavalry in Kislev, you're probably going to be using this a fair amount. Gust of Flight increases range and accuracy. You know, Freezing Winds, which reduces enemy speed. You have Hailstorm, which again is another nice damage dealing spell. You go on to the higher tier magic, which is Blizzard, which is a large explosion area, and it deals Frostbite, and is a damage over time ability, which is really damn nice. You have the Hawks of Miska, which essentially it's a friendly fire, like friendly explosion. And the only thing I've ever known of having something like that was Bretonia with the Blessed Trebuchets, which says this is damn amazing that we have something like that. So the Lore of Tempest is pretty interesting, and the fact that you can gain access to it very quickly and very easily as Katrine, and even as the other factions, because using the Ice Core is actually relatively easy and not too complicated. So it's a damn fun thing to play with, and I'm going to enjoy showing it off a hell of a lot. So the Kislev tech tree, slightly different from what Nurgle's was. This one is split into 4 sections. The first one is to do with the land, and then the next 3 are to do with the 3 major pillars of Kislev, the 3 biggest cities, Prague, Erengrad, and Kislev itself. They all offer various different things, from buffs to units, to lots of campaign effects, and it's pretty much straightforward and standard. You have to unlock a certain amount of text in one tree to progress on to the next, only to find that in the last trees that there are certain requirements, which is in the Kislev tree, you need to have researched certain technologies, and the same with the land and Prague. The only exception to this is Erengrad, which allows you to have built specific buildings in Erengrad to be able to access the bottom part of the tree. This is quite nice. I like how it's been laid out because of the fact, well, you know, it shows how kind of Kislev is focused. It's very much about its land and its cities and being very, very proud of them. The tech tree is very easy to understand. You'll be able to progress through it relatively quickly. And the only monetary cost behind any of it is 3. Is it? Yep, 3. Nope, 4. Yeah, I can count, I promise. 4 techs that are locked behind a devotion cost of 200 apiece, which is not terrible to reach. And that's pretty much what covers the tech tree. Techs are nice and easy in Warhammer 3. I like this. More of this, please. So an overview of the army and just Kislev in general. A good way to sign off our second faction focus. Kislev has a ton of hybrid units, has some really damn good ranged options, it's got some good artillery, it's got a ton of bears, and it's even got a giant bear made of ice and rock and can, you know, do a Godzilla style ice breath type thing. Its lords are good, the magic is good around it, they are a seriously solid all-rounder, and in fact I don't think they have a bad unit in their army. Even the snow leopards, which are relatively squishy, are damn good at just sniping enemy lords and tearing them a new a-hole, which is somewhat pleasing to watch. The campaign is relatively fun. I haven't managed to play too far into it, and I will do a total bear domination campaign at some point where everyone must succumb to the great glory of the bear, and that's going to be absolutely glorious. They are a very beginner-friendly faction from my opinion because the units are so damn easy just to maneuver and use. You don't have to think about it too much. They are the corn of the allies, basically. That's kind of the way I like to look at it. If you've enjoyed the content, please do feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I am going to be currently running a Nurgle campaign over on my Twitch channel, with Kislev being the second option afterwards. And there's going to be an absolute ton of Warhammer 3 content coming on both Twitch and YouTube. I'll leave my Patreon in the description below if you guys want to support the channel in any kind of way. It all really does help massively. And hopefully maybe one day we can be a Creative Assembly Total War partner. We're verified at the moment and well on our way. So thank you again for all the support you guys have given me. I will catch you in the next one, my glorious gits.